Jaden stood in the hospital hallway with his heart pounding so hard he thought everyone could hear it. His worn sneakers squeaked against the clean white floor as he watched the beautiful nurse walk toward him. Her name tag read Amara, and she had the kindest smile he had ever seen. For 3 months he had watched her care for patients with such grace and warmth that it made his heart ache. Today was the day he would finally ask her to be his date to the medical school charity dance. His hands shook as he held a small bunch of grocery store daisies behind his back. He had skipped 2 meals to afford them. Amara looked up and their eyes met. In that moment, Jaden saw something flash across her face that looked like sadness mixed with hope. He took a deep breath and stepped forward, not knowing that this single moment would change both their lives forever. What he did not know was that Amara was carrying a secret so big it could crush the fragile connection growing between them. Jaden cleared his throat and his voice came out smaller than he wanted. Amara, I know I am just a medical student and you probably have better things to do, but there is a charity dance next Saturday at the university, and I was wondering if maybe you might want to go with me. The words tumbled out fast and clumsy. Amara stopped walking and looked at him with those deep brown eyes that seemed to see right through to his soul. Jaden felt his face grow hot as the silence stretched between them. Other hospital staff walked past, giving them curious looks. He wanted to disappear into the floor. Then something incredible happened. Amara smiled, a real, genuine smile that lit up her whole face. I would love to go with you, Jaden, she said softly. His heart nearly exploded with joy. Really, he asked, unable to believe his luck. Really, she confirmed. He handed her the daisies, and she took them like they were made of gold. These are beautiful, she whispered. Jaden felt like he was floating. He did not see the tear that slipped down her cheek after he walked away. He did not know that Amara had been praying for someone to see her as just a regular person, and not for what her last name meant. The next week, Jaden worked extra shifts at the campus cafeteria to save money for the dance. He was a scholarship student, barely scraping by on instant noodles and day-old bread from the discount rack. His apartment was a tiny room he shared with 2 other students. At night he studied under a dim lamp while his roommates snored. His white coat had patches sewn on the elbows, and his stethoscope was borrowed from the school. But none of that mattered now because Amara had said yes. Beautiful, kind, wonderful Amara, who never looked down on him for his shabby clothes or empty wallet. He told his roommate Carlos about the date. Carlos whistled low and said, "Man, you are punching above your weight class with that one." Jaden knew it was true, but it did not stop him from hoping. On Wednesday, he saw Amara in the break room. She was eating a simple sandwich and reading a worn paperback book. He sat down across from her. "Hi," he said shyly. "Hi," she replied with that smile that made his stomach flip. They talked about everything and nothing. She asked about his studies and his dreams of becoming a doctor. He asked about her work and why she loved nursing. "I love helping people," she said simply. "My father always taught me that service to others is the highest calling." Jaden felt his heart swell. She was perfect, absolutely perfect. Friday night came, and Jaden stood in front of his closet staring at his one suit. It was his father's old suit from 20 years ago. The pants were too short, and the jacket sleeves showed too much wrist. He had tried it on 5 times already. Carlos came up behind him. "Dude, you look fine, stop worrying," he said. But Jaden was worried. What if Amara showed up looking like $1 million and he looked like he shopped at a thrift store clearance sale? What if people laughed at them? What if she realized she had made a mistake saying yes to him? He sat on his bed and put his head in his hands. Carlos sat next to him. "Listen, man, that girl said yes to you for a reason. She sees something special in you. So stop putting yourself down," he said firmly. Jaden nodded and tried to believe it. That night he barely slept. He dreamed of dancing with Amara under bright lights while everyone watched and whispered. In his dream, she looked at him with love in her eyes. When he woke up, he felt a strange mix of hope and terror. Saturday evening arrived, and Jaden borrowed Carlos's car to pick up Amara. She had given him an address in a regular middle-class neighborhood. When he pulled up to the modest brick house, his hands were sweating on the steering wheel. He walked to the door and knocked. Amara opened it, and Jaden forgot how to breathe. She wore a simple purple dress that hugged her curves perfectly. Her natural hair was styled in elegant curls. She wore minimal makeup and a delicate silver necklace. She was the most beautiful thing he had ever seen. "You look incredible," he managed to say. "You look very handsome," she replied, touching his arm gently. They drove to the university, and Jaden felt like the luckiest man alive. She asked about his family, and he told her about growing up poor in a small rural town in West Virginia. His dad had worked in a factory, and his mom had cleaned houses. They had saved every penny to help him go to college. He was the first in his family to go to university. Amara listened with such genuine interest that he found himself sharing things he never told anyone. When they arrived at the dance, she took his hand. "Together," she whispered. "Together," he agreed. They walked in side by side. The dance was held in the grand ballroom of the University Center. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling, and round tables with white tablecloths surrounded the dance floor. Medical students and doctors mingled in expensive suits and designer dresses. Jaden immediately felt out of place in his father's old suit. But Amara squeezed his hand and led him to the dance floor. They swayed to the music, and Jaden felt the rest of the world fade away. She fit perfectly in his arms. They talked and laughed, and for those few hours, Jaden forgot about being poor or struggling or different. Then everything changed. A tall man in expensive tuxedo approached them. He had graying hair and sharp eyes that swept over Jaden with clear disapproval. Amara tensed in Jaden's arms. The man spoke in a cold voice. "Amara, what are you doing here, and who is this?" Jaden felt Amara's hand tremble in his. "Father," she said quietly. "This is Jaden." The word father hit Jaden like a punch to the stomach. This was her father. The man looked at Jaden like he was dirt on his shoe. "We need to talk now," the man said to Amara. She looked torn between staying and going. Jaden made the decision for her. "Go ahead, I will wait here," he said, trying to sound confident. She gave him an apologetic look and walked away with her father. Jaden stood alone on the edge of the dance floor, feeling every eye on him. He overheard two doctors talking nearby. "Did you see that was Richard Wellington?" the man said. "Who is Richard Wellington?" Jaden thought. The other doctor laughed. "Only the CEO of Wellington Medical Corporation, one of the biggest hospital chains in the country, worth billions with a big B." Jaden felt his blood run cold. Amara was the daughter of a billionaire. Sweet, kind, humble Amara, who worked as a nurse and carried her lunch in a paper bag. His mind raced. Why had she not told him? Why was she working as a regular nurse? What was she doing with someone like him? He watched across the room as Amara and her father had what looked like a heated discussion. Her father kept gesturing angrily while Amara stood her ground. Finally, she turned and walked back to Jaden. Her eyes were red, but she held her head high. "Let's get out of here," she said. Jaden nodded, and they left the dance without another word. The car ride was silent and thick with unspoken questions. Jaden drove to a quiet park overlooking the city. They sat on a bench under the stars. Finally, Jaden spoke. "You are Richard Wellington's daughter," he said. It was not a question. Amara nodded. "Yes," she said quietly. "Why did you not tell me?" he asked, trying to keep the hurt out of his voice. She turned to face him, and tears rolled down her beautiful face. "Because for the first time in my life, someone saw me as just Amara," she said. Not as the Wellington heiress, not as a walking dollar sign, not as a prize to be won, just me. Her voice broke. "Do you know how rare that is, Jaden? Every man I have ever dated wanted my father's money or connections. Every friendship came with an agenda. I became a nurse under my mother's maiden name because I wanted to do something real, something that mattered. I wanted to help people without my last name opening doors or creating barriers. When you asked me to the dance with those sweet grocery store flowers, I knew you had no idea who I really was, and it felt like a gift. Jaden sat in stunned silence. He thought about the past week, how natural and easy everything had felt between them. How she never acted superior or entitled. How she had been genuinely interested in his struggles and dreams. "I wish you had trusted me enough to tell me," Jaden said finally. Amara grabbed his hand. "I know, and I am sorry, but can you understand why I did not?" she asked desperately. "I have been hurt so many times by people who only saw the money. You are the first person in years who looked at me and saw a woman worth knowing for who she is, not what she has." Jaden felt his anger melting. He looked at her tear-stained face and saw not a billionaire's daughter, but just Amara, the woman who held patients' hands when they were scared, the woman who laughed at his terrible jokes, the woman who made his heart race. "I do not care about your money, Amara," he said firmly. "I asked you to that dance because you are kind and beautiful, and you make me want to be a better man. I care about you, not your bank account." Fresh tears spilled down her face, but this time they were tears of relief. She threw her arms around him. "You have no idea how much I needed to hear that," she whispered. They held each other as the city lights twinkled below them. Jaden felt like something had shifted between them, something deep and real and lasting. Over the next few weeks, Jaden and Amara grew closer despite the challenges. Her father, Richard Wellington, was furious about the relationship. He called Jaden to his office one day. Jaden stood in the massive corner office feeling small and intimidated. Richard sat behind his enormous desk and looked at Jaden with cold calculation. "How much do you want?" he asked bluntly. "Excuse me," Jaden replied, confused. "To leave my daughter alone, to disappear from her life." "Name your price," Richard said, like he was discussing a business transaction. Jaden felt anger surge through him. "I do not want your money, sir," he said firmly. "I care about Amara." Richard laughed, a harsh, bitter sound. "You care about her, or you care about the life she can give you?" he asked. "You are, 23 years old, a broke medical student drowning in debt. My daughter is worth $300 million in her trust fund alone. Do not tell me you have not thought about what that money could do for you." Jaden met the older man's eyes without flinching. "Sir, with all due respect, you do not know anything about me or what I value. I asked Amara out when I thought she was a regular nurse making $40,000 a year. I would be with her if she had nothing." Richard's expression did not change. "Everyone has a price, son." Jaden shook his head. "Not me, sir, not for this." He walked out of the office with his head held high but his hands shaking. Amara was waiting for him outside the building. She saw his face and knew what had happened. "He offered you money, did he not?" she asked. Jaden nodded. "I am so sorry," she said. "This is who he is. He thinks everything can be bought and sold." Jaden took her hands. "Hey, I am not going anywhere," he promised. "But I need you to know this is not going to be easy. Your father will try everything to break us up." Amara's jaw set with determination. "Let him try," she said fiercely. "I have spent my whole life letting him control me, choosing safe, approved men who wanted the Wellington name more than they wanted me. You are the first real thing I have ever had, Jaden, and I am not giving that up without a fight." They kissed right there on the busy sidewalk while business people rushed past them. In that moment, Jaden knew he was falling in love with her. Not despite her background, but alongside it. She was Amara Wellington, and she was also just Amara, and he wanted all of her. The pressure from her family continued. Amara's mother called her crying, begging her to reconsider. Her younger brother told her she was being selfish. Her father threatened to cut her off financially. Amara stood firm. She moved out of her family's mansion into a small apartment that she paid for with her nursing salary. Jaden helped her move in. They ate pizza on the floor surrounded by boxes and laughed until their sides hurt. "This feels right," she said, looking around the modest space. "For the first time in my life I feel free." Jaden admired her courage. She had given up luxury and comfort to live authentically. One night as they studied together, Jaden looked up from his medical textbook. "Why nursing?" he asked. "You could have done anything. Why choose to work at a hospital?" Amara smiled. "When I was 16, I was in a car accident," she said. "Nothing too serious, but I was scared and hurting. There was this nurse who held my hand the whole time. She did not know who I was, she just saw a scared kid. She made me feel safe. I wanted to be that person for someone else." Jaden fell a little more in love with her in that moment. Months passed and their relationship deepened. Jaden met Amara's friends from nursing school, who all loved her for her genuine kindness. Amara met Jaden's family when they visited for Thanksgiving. His parents were nervous about meeting a billionaire's daughter, but Amara immediately put them at ease. She helped Jaden's mom in the kitchen and listened to his father's stories about working at the factory. She did not judge their small mobile home or simple meal. She fit in perfectly. Jaden's younger sister Emily pulled Amara aside. "Thank you for making my brother so happy," she said. "I have never seen him smile like this." Amara hugged the girl. "He makes me happy too," she said. After dinner, Jaden's mom pulled him aside. "That girl is special," she said with tears in her eyes. "She loves you, I can see it. Do not let her go." Jaden hugged his mother. "I do not plan to," he promised. As Christmas approached, Jaden saved every penny he could. He had a plan, but it required more money than he had ever had at once. He picked up extra shifts, sold his textbooks back early, and even donated plasma. Finally, he had enough. He went to a small jewelry store and bought a simple silver ring with a tiny diamond. It was not fancy or expensive, but it was real, and it was all his. Christmas Eve, Jaden took Amara to the hospital where they had met. They stood in the hallway where he had first asked her to the dance. "Remember this spot?" he asked. She smiled. "How could I forget?" she said. "This is where everything started." Jaden got down on one knee right there in the hospital corridor. A few nurses stopped to watch. Amara put her hand over her mouth. "Amara Wellington, you are the bravest, most beautiful person I have ever known," he said. "You chose to live authentically, even when it cost you everything. You saw value in me when I had nothing to offer but myself. You make me want to be the kind of doctor who sees patients as people, not problems. I do not have much to give you, but I can promise you my whole heart forever. Will you marry me?" Tears streamed down Amara's face. "Yes," she said, laughing and crying at the same time. "Yes, yes, yes." He slipped the simple ring on her finger, and she kissed him while the nurses cheered and clapped. It was perfect. The engagement announcement sent shockwaves through both their worlds. Jaden's fellow medical students congratulated him with genuine happiness. Amara's family had a very different reaction. Her father showed up at Jaden's apartment the next day. Jaden answered the door to find Richard Wellington looking older and more tired than before. "Can we talk?" Richard asked without his usual commanding tone. Jaden let him in. They sat in the cramped living room. Richard looked around at the peeling paint and worn furniture. "My daughter is giving up everything for you," he said quietly. "The money, the lifestyle, the security. What can you give her in return?" Jaden met his eyes. "Respect," he said simply. "Love, partnership, a life where she is valued for who she is, not what she has. With all due respect, sir, you raised an incredible woman, but you have spent her whole life treating her like a commodity. I treat her like the miracle she is." Richard was quiet for a long moment. Then, to Jaden's shock, the older man's eyes filled with tears. "You are right," he said roughly. "I have been so afraid of people using her that I never let her just be happy. I see how she looks at you. She has never looked at anyone that way." His voice cracked. "Take care of my little girl." Jaden nodded, feeling unexpected compassion for this broken, powerful man. "I will, sir, I promise." Richard stood and offered his hand. Jaden shook it. "Welcome to the family, son," Richard said. The wedding planning began, and Amara wanted something that reflected both their worlds. She suggested they have two celebrations, one small intimate ceremony in Jaden's hometown and one larger reception in the city so her father's business associates could attend. But Jaden had a different idea. He sat her down one evening and took her hands. "Amara, I do not want two weddings," he said gently. "I want one wedding that is truly ours. Not your father's world and not mine, but something we create together. Something that honors where we both come from and where we are going." Amara's eyes filled with happy tears. "What did you have in mind?" she asked. Jaden smiled. "A small church in my hometown for the ceremony, because that is where my roots are, and that is important. But for the reception, let's do something at the hospital where we met. We can rent one of the conference rooms and invite the staff who have become our friends. We can have your family and mine all together in the place where our story started." Amara kissed him deeply. "That is perfect," she whispered. "Absolutely perfect." They spent the next few months planning every detail together, making compromises and finding creative solutions. It brought them even closer. During the planning, Jaden faced his own doubts and insecurities. Late one night he confided in Carlos. "What if I cannot give her the life she deserves?" he asked. "What if she wakes up one day and realizes she made a mistake choosing me?" Carlos looked at his friend seriously. "Man, you need to stop measuring yourself by her bank account," he said. "That woman chose you knowing exactly what life with you would look like. She moved out of a mansion to live in a studio apartment. She stood up to her entire family. She gave up everything comfortable because being with you was worth more than all of it. Stop questioning whether you are enough and start believing what she already knows, that you are everything." Jaden let those words sink in. Carlos was right. Amara had proven her love in 1,000 ways. It was time for him to stop doubting and start trusting. The next day, he apologized to Amara for his insecurities. She held him close. "Jaden, I need you to understand something," she said firmly. "I am not settling. I am not sacrificing. I am choosing the life I want with the man I love. You are not less than anyone else. You are exactly who I want." Her words healed something deep inside him. The wedding day dawned bright and clear. Jaden stood at the altar in a new suit that Amara had secretly asked his mother to help her buy for him. His hands shook slightly as he waited. Then the music started and Amara appeared. She wore a simple white dress and carried daisies just like the ones he had given her that first day. She was so beautiful he felt tears sting his eyes. Her father walked her down the aisle, and when they reached Jaden, Richard placed her hand in his. "Love her well," he said gruffly. "I will," Jaden promised. The ceremony was simple and heartfelt. They wrote their own vows. Jaden promised to always see her, never take her for granted, and build a life based on mutual respect and joy. Amara promised to always be his partner to support his dreams and create a home full of love and laughter. When the minister pronounced them husband and wife, the small church erupted in cheers. They kissed and Jaden felt complete in a way he never had before. This was his wife, his partner, his best friend. The reception was held in a beautifully decorated conference room at the hospital where they met. Hospital staff mingled with wealthy business people, and everyone seemed to blend together in celebration. There was a mix of barbecue from Jaden's hometown and gourmet dishes from Amara's favorite restaurant. The cake was homemade by Jaden's aunt. Amara had never been happier. She danced with her father and Jaden danced with his mother. Then Jaden and Amara had their first dance as husband and wife. As they swayed together, Jaden whispered, "I love you, Mrs. Wellington Brooks." They had decided to combine their last names. "I love you too, Mr. Wellington Brooks," she whispered back. During the reception, Amara's father gave a toast. He spoke about being wrong and learning that true wealth is measured in character, not currency. He welcomed Jaden into the family with genuine warmth. There was not a dry eye in the room. Later that night, after the guests had left and they were alone, Jaden and Amara sat looking at the stars through the hospital window. "We did it," he said in wonder. "We really did it." Amara squeezed his hand. "This is just the beginning," she said. "We have a whole life ahead of us." 5 years later, Jaden graduated from medical school at the top of his class. Amara was in the front row cheering louder than anyone. He had done it with her by his side, supporting him through every late night and every exam. After graduation, Jaden joined a community health clinic serving underprivileged patients. He could have chosen a prestigious hospital with Amara's connections, but he wanted to serve the community that reminded him of where he came from. Amara continued nursing 3 days a week and spent the other 2 days volunteering at a free clinic. Together, they started a scholarship fund for low-income students pursuing healthcare careers. They used some of Amara's trust fund money, but only after Jaden had contributed everything he could from his own salary. It was important to him that they build this together as equals. The scholarship became their passion project, helping dozens of students achieve their dreams, just like Jaden had achieved his. They named it the Second Chance Scholarship because they believed everyone deserved a second chance at their dreams, regardless of their background or circumstances. Their marriage was not always easy. They had arguments about money and family and future plans. But they always talked through their problems, always chose each other, always remembered why they fell in love. Amara's father became one of Jaden's biggest supporters. He admired Jaden's integrity and work ethic. He told Jaden once that he was wrong about him and that he was grateful Jaden had proven him wrong. Richard even joined the board of their scholarship foundation and used his connections to help raise funds. Jaden's parents adored Amara and treated her like the daughter they never had. The two families blended in unexpected, beautiful ways. When Jaden and Amara bought their first house, they chose a modest home in a diverse neighborhood. They wanted to raise their future children with the same values they shared, that worth is not measured in money, but in kindness and integrity. They filled their home with laughter and love and second-hand furniture that they refinished together. Every anniversary they went back to that hospital hallway where it all began. They stood in the same spot and remembered the scared, hopeful people they had been that day when Jaden had asked Amara to a dance. 10 years after that first dance, Jaden was chief of medicine at the community clinic and Amara was director of nursing. They had 2 children, a daughter named Hope and a son named Justice. They raised their kids to understand their privilege, but also to value hard work and service. On Hope's 7th birthday, Jaden told her the story of how he met her mother. He told her about the daisies and the charity dance and the moment he realized her mother was more than he ever imagined. Hope listened with wide eyes. "Did you live happily ever after?" she asked. Jaden looked at Amara across the room reading to Justice. "We are living it right now," he said. "Happiness is not something you get at the end of the story. It is something you build every single day, through love and choice and commitment." That night after the kids were asleep, Jaden and Amara sat on their back porch. "Remember when you asked me to that dance?" Amara said. "I knew my life was about to change. I could feel it." Jaden took her hand and looked at the simple ring she still wore. "Best decision I ever made," he said. "Asking you." "Best decision I ever made too," she replied. Saying yes, their story became something of a legend at the hospital. New staff members would hear about the medical student and the CEO's daughter who fell in love despite everything trying to keep them apart. Some people said it was romantic. Others said it was inspiring. Jaden and Amara just called it real. They had built a life on honesty, respect, and genuine love. They had proven that connection and character matter more than money or status. Every year on the anniversary of that first dance, They donated $1,000 to help sponsor another charity dance for medical students. They wanted other young people to have the same chance they had to meet someone special, to take a risk on love, to believe in something bigger than themselves. The scholarship fund they created grew each year. They personally met with every scholarship recipient, sharing their story and encouraging the students to stay true to themselves. Many of those students went on to become doctors and nurses who served their communities with the same dedication Jaden and Amara showed. The ripple effect of their love story touched hundreds of lives. One particularly meaningful moment came when they received a letter from a young woman named Isabella. She was a scholarship recipient who had just graduated from nursing school. In her letter, she wrote about growing up poor and thinking medical careers were only for rich people. She wrote about how the Wellington Brooks Scholarship gave her a chance she never thought possible. But more than the money, she wrote, it was meeting Jaden and Amara and hearing their story that changed her life. You showed me that love and success are not about where you start, but about who you become, she wrote. You taught me that staying true to your values matters more than fitting into someone else's expectations. Thank you for seeing me and believing in me. Amara cried reading that letter. This is why we do it, she said to Jaden. This is what it is all about. Jaden held her close, feeling overwhelmed with gratitude. They had taken their own struggles and pain and turned them into something that helped others. That was the greatest gift of all. As the years went on, Jaden and Amara faced new challenges. Jaden's clinic struggled with funding, and they had to make difficult decisions about keeping it open. Amara's mother was diagnosed with cancer, and they supported her through treatment. Their children faced their own challenges at school and in life. But through it all, they remained each other's constant support. They had learned early in their relationship that love was not just a feeling, but a choice they made every single day. On their 50th anniversary, they renewed their vows in that same hospital hallway where Jaden had first asked Amara to the dance. Their children stood beside them along with their parents and closest friends. Jaden looked at Amara and saw not just his wife, but his best friend, his partner, his home. 15 years ago, I asked you to a dance with $5 flowers and no idea you were a billionaire's daughter, he said. Today I would ask you again, knowing everything I know now. Not because of what you have, but because of who you are. You are the bravest, kindest, most beautiful person I know, and loving you has been the greatest adventure of my life. Amara was crying and smiling at the same time. And I would say yes again, she replied. Every single time I would say yes. Their marriage was not perfect, but it was true. They fought and made up, they struggled and celebrated. They grew and changed together. Through it all, they never forgot where they started, two people from different worlds, who found common ground in kindness and courage. That was their real happily ever after, not a fairy tale ending, but a daily choice to keep loving, keep trying, keep believing in the power of seeing someone truly and being seen in return. They taught their children that true wealth is measured in relationships, not bank accounts. They showed their community that service and compassion matter more than status or prestige. They proved to themselves and everyone watching that love built on authenticity and respect can weather any storm. And it all started with a poor white student from West Virginia, a bunch of grocery store daisies, and the courage to ask one simple question: be my date to the dance. That question changed 2 lives and created a legacy that would impact generations. Because when 2 people choose to see each other truly and love each other completely, anything becomes possible. That was the real miracle of Jaden and Amara's story. Not that they found each other, but that they chose each other every single day for the rest of their lives.